I'm going to be doing a service that's a combination of music and readings and reflections on the gifts we have received this season and using others. And I'd like to be talking about thank you letters. You'll be hearing a lot of thank you notes. Do you still write thank you notes? I guess we should. One of them is actually a poem by Mick Gower, who is writing Christmas thank yous from a child to those who gave him gifts. He writes, "Dear Auntie, oh, what a nice sweater. I've always adored powder blue and fancy you thinking of orange and pink for the stripes. How clever of you. Dear Uncle, the soap is terrific. So useful and such a kind thought. And how did you guess that I just used the last of the soap from last Christmas? Dear Grandmother, many thanks for the hankies. Now I really can't wait for the flu. And the daisies embroidered in red around the M for Michael. How thoughtful of you. Dear cousin, what socks! And the same sort you wear, so you must be the last word in style. And I'm certain you're right that the luminous green will make me stand out for a mile. Dear sister, I quite understand your concern. It's a risk sending jam in the post. But I think I've pulled out all the big bits of glass, so it won't taste too sharp when I spread it on toast. Dear Granddad, don't fret. I'm delighted, so don't think your gift will offend. I'm not at all hurt that you gave up this year and just sent me a $5 to spend." Thank you notes are a bit of a challenge. Back in 2012, Alexandra Petri in The New Yorker wrote the following: "The gift giving is over, and now comes the part we're dreading, the thank you notes. Thank you notes are the kind of thing that you're never entirely rid of, like cat hair or sin in certain religions or celery that seems always to be stuck in your teeth. No matter where you are or what you're doing, if you had parents like mine, you have that nagging feeling that you need to be writing someone a thank you letter. This is harder to do than it looks, and it looks hard. No doubt Mallory stared at Mount Everest with much the same trepidation I feel when I confront a box of stationery. There are so many questions. For instance, how long is too long to wait before sending a thank you note? I wrote thanking someone for inviting me to a party where I met his baby and his cat, and now the baby is starting kindergarten, and I'm not sure the cat is still alive. I've also lost the address. The more thoughtful gift, the harder it is to come up with a note. All the standard formulas seem trite. Dear name, thank you for the lovely noun. I can't wait to verb with it. But efforts to spice things up inevitably backfire. Stray too far from the prescribed path and you wind up in the dark forest of accidentally double-edged compliments. Thank you for the book. I'll waste no time in starting it. In some cases, it is difficult to avoid sounding as though you've just lit the gift on fire and stamped on it. A certain inevitable truthfulness creeps into your tone. The framed photograph you sent of yourself smoking a large meerschaum pipe will look wonderful underneath my bathroom sink. The one useful thank you writing trick I have found is to purchase the smallest possible thank you cards. Otherwise, you run out of things to say after 2 lines, and you're confronted with a vast ocean of empty card. The card looks expectantly at you. You try to say something. None of the sentences you can think of are long enough. The page remains irritatingly empty. Frenzied, you continue to scribble until you have filled at least half the card, only to discover that you have accidentally written the same phrase twice and shared a lot of details about your personal life that the recipient will not know what to do with. The internet should have made this easier, but instead it adds to the challenge. If you want to do it right and send a card, this requires obtaining an actual address. People under 30 seldom have an actual address. If you ask them for a real address, they get spooked and assume you're inviting them to a wedding. People over 30 have been trained by long experience and disappointment not to expect thank you notes. When they get them, they're so surprised and delighted that sometimes you get one back thanking you for the thank you note. They keel over from the shock. This is the worst possible outcome because then you're obliged to send a condolence note. Oh my. Let's talk about other thank you notes. Sometimes they can be quite funny. I'm reading now from John Julius Norwich's The 12 Days of Christmas, a correspondence. And to start, we start with a little piece of music so you know where we're going. My dearest darling, that partridge in that lovely pear tree, what an enchanting, romantic, poetic present. Bless you and thank you, your deeply loving Emily. December. My dearest darling Edward, the 2 turtle doves arrived this morning and are cooing away in the pear tree as I write. I'm so touched and grateful. With undying love, as always, Emily. November 27. My darling Edward, you do think of the most original presents. Who ever thought of sending anybody 3 French hens? Do they really come all the way from France? It's a pity we have no chicken coops, but I expect we'll find some. Thank you anyway, there, heaven. Your loving Emily. November 28. Dearest Edward, what a surprise. 4 calling birds arrived this morning. They're very sweet, even if they do call rather loudly. They make telephoning impossible. But I expect they'll calm down when they get used to their new home. Anyway, I'm very grateful. Of course I am. Love from Emily. 'Dearest Edward, on the 29th of December, the postman just delivered the 5 most beautiful gold rings, 1 for each finger, and all fitting perfectly. A really lovely present, lovelier in a way than the birds, which do take a little bit of looking after. The 4 that arrived yesterday are still making a terrible row, and I'm afraid some of us didn't get much sleep last night. Mummy says she wants to use the rings to wring their necks. She's only joking, I think, though I know what she means, but I love the rings. Bless you, love, Emily. December 30th. Dear Edward, whatever I expected to find when I opened the front door this morning, it certainly wasn't 6 socking great geese laying eggs all over the doorstep. Frankly, I rather hoped you'd stop sending me birds. We have no room for them, and they have already ruined the croquet lawn. I knew you meant well, but let's call a halt, shall we? Love, Emily. 31 December, Edward. I thought I said no more birds. But this morning I woke up to find no less than 7 swans all trying to get into our goldfish pond. I'd rather not think what happened to the goldfish. The whole house seems to be full of birds, to say nothing of what they leave behind. Please, please, stop. Your Emily. First of January. Frankly, I think I prefer birds. What am I to do with 8 milkmaids and their cows? Is this some kind of joke? If so, I'm afraid I don't find it very amusing. Emily. Second January. Look here, Edward. This has gone far enough. To say you're sending me 9 ladies dancing, all I can say is that judging from the way they dance, they're certainly not ladies. The village just isn't accustomed to seeing a regiment of shameless hussies with nothing on but their lipstick cavorting around the green. And it's Mummy and I who get blamed. If you value our friendship, which I do less and less, kindly stop this ridiculous behavior at once. Emily. Third January. As I write this letter, 10 disgusting old men are prancing about over what used to be the garden before the geese and the swans and the cows got at it, and several of them, I notice, are taking inexcusable liberties with the milkmaids. Meanwhile, the neighbors are trying to have us evicted. I shall never speak to you again, Emily. Fourth January. This is the last straw. You know I detest bagpipes. The place has now become something between a menagerie and a madhouse, and a man from the council has just declared it unfit for habitation. At least Mummy has been spared this last outrage. They took her away this afternoon in an ambulance. I hope you're satisfied. Fifth January. Sir, our client, Ms. Emily Wilbraham, instructs me to inform you that with the arrival on her premises at 7:30 this morning of the entire percussion section of the Royal Liverpool Philharmonic Orchestra and several of their friends, she has no course left open to her but to seek an injunction to prevent your importuning her further. I am, sir, yours faithfully, G. Creep, Solicitor at Law.